13th floor. The 13th floor.
Welcome everybody to the 13th floor, where the furniture isn't always the best, but the views are amazing. I'm your moderator, B. Jones, on the podcast, and I'm joined by Muttley Mike D. Williams. What's happening?
What's going on, T?
I'm just happy to be here. In your presence tonight, you're in such good spirits, man. I know the show gonna be live.
Oh, I'm just happy to be here too. It's only ginger ale, people. I promise.
Don't let them lie to you, America.
I
DJ, Barry, be real. What's going on?
You know what time it is. Another beautiful day in Zamunda. I've been all over the place, around the world and back again, I feel. But, you know, now we here on the 13th floor, chillaxing. Furniture ain't always the best, but what? You know the rest.
Views are amazing. BJ, what's going on, bro?
All good, baby. All good.
There it is. There it is. And Coach K, you in the dark, but you in the light. What's going on?
I'm in the dark, but I bring lightness because I'm so black. I go to reverse the negative. Yeah. Boom.
Just like that.
Marinate on that, America.
We're starting off the show with bombs, baby.
Yeah, and my bad, fresh man. You know, I was just trying to get. I found this Muttley laugh mix. You know, so I didn't mean to play it while you're doing your intro. So if you wanted to go again, you know, so the people can hear you.
Well, again, you know what time it is. We are here live, direct. Nothing going on, but another beautiful day in Zamunda, man. 13th floor. What up?
I definitely thought that was Mike actually laughing if that Muttley was going on.
I did too.
Background. I definitely had no idea.
Oh, really? No, that was me actually playing the Muttley laugh.
I had no idea. I thought it was him laughing again.
That's hilarious.
Awesome.
Go ahead, bust it out one more time, Mike.
I'm definitely editing that to the end of the show.
Oh, man. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 13th floor, where you see we have much fun on the show.
Hey, I messed up, y'all. When I was in Vegas, my hotel.
Hold on, man. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens?
No, man.
Cut. Show's over.
My elevator actually had a 13th floor.
In Vegas?
Yeah.
Gambling capital
That picture.
of the world.
You didn't take that picture, man?
Nah, man. I thought about it like after the fact. I thought, I should take a whole video sequence of me getting on the elevator and hitting 13.
Oh, man. You missed a real opportunity.
That's not like you, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
That would have been perfect, too, because I could have. Oh, man.
Now we're going to have to make a special trip.
I got to find a building with a 13th floor. Besides ours.
There it is.
And why your video just paused like that, too, for a second?
Everybody got ginger ale tonight.
Gin and ale. Yeah, everybody got it. Is that right, Mike?
Herb, cigarette, weed, Hennessy, vodka. Ha ha ha.
Okay, so it is post-election night here on the 13th floor, man. We had one of the largest turnouts in midterm election history, one of the most historic midterm elections last night. I want to get you guys' take on it, man. It's pretty interesting. I think it was like 13 million people actually voted in this midterm election. That's up from like 89 in 2016, and 2014 it was like 90-some people or whatnot. So great voter turnout. I feel like we got some big wins, a few losses in there, but I think they paved the way for some greater things to come. What you guys think?
Go ahead, laugh, Mike, because it's comedy.
What's comedy, girl?
So you said we got some big wins, but I think we got big wins in some places that, yeah, they matter, but for 2020, they're not as impactful as we think they'll be unless the voters turn out.
Mm-hmm.
So losing Florida, losing.
That guy, Rick Scott cannot lose, man. It's crazy.
Well, you can't lose it. Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
We're going to get to you.
Losing Florida, I think losing Ohio.
I know, Mike.
For what looks like we may have lost Georgia at this moment. Like, you know, some of these are governorships we're talking about, but they're still big, you know what I mean? Because they own their state. So these things, they'll be impactful, they'll hurt. And then, you know, with them picking up more seats in the Senate actually holds somewhat more power than the House does.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens, man. The jury's out, and then I don't know if any of you saw his press conference today.
I didn't get a chance to check the press conference, but I heard
Basically, my man said, "Look, I know y'all got the House, and any subpoenas and hearings and investigations you guys want to start just means that we won't work together on anything for the country. And if you start investigating me, I'm going to investigate you."
So basically the same thing they did 4 years ago, 3 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, you know it's gonna be. You know,
Sounds
it's
like-
Not saying it's right, but same thing you did. Okay, great.
So he's using his leverage to say, "All right, Democrats, start investigations. We just won't work together on anything."
Yep, nothing will get accomplished.
Well, I don't think much is going to get accomplished because I don't think there's any type of bipartisanship anyway. And now that you have to work with him, and you can see he's already on the defensive, especially with the firing of Jeff Sessions and this new AG, what's his name, Whitaker, or not AG, the Justice Department. I think his name is Whitaker, and he's supposed to be even tougher on this Russian probe or any probe for that matter into the president. That's just gonna, be his big stick he's trying to wield at this point in time. But yeah, Carol, I know you pointed out the losses supposed loss in Georgia, the supposed loss in Florida. But I do think Stacey Abrams and Andrew Gillum fought such a hard fight that I hope that the voters that did turn out don't be discouraged, because I think if Andrew Gillum continues to work on the platform, especially now that Amendment 4 got passed in Florida,
Definitely.
that's 1.5 million votes that can go either way. But if just half of those votes were taken in by him, we might be looking at a different race. But
look, man, you're going to see something come out, and it's been out in some of the circles that I follow for the longest. They're going to run a campaign that says the Democrats put most of those people away in jail anyway and made them felons, and they're going to say it came from the Clinton administration. Just wait and say you'll see.
That there's at least some truth to that if you actually go back and look at the progression of how everything was put in place and different laws were put in place. But when you look at those that have been out and have actually applied to get their voting rights back, the systems that are in place that kept them from doing that was what the current governor and the previous governor had put in place. Actually, just the current governor actually put in place to keep people back, to suppress those people from being able to get their voting rights back. So the process was never set up to be anything. So no matter what side you look at it on, it's really how people are feeling that day when they wake up.
And that's for the disenfranchisement, the felons being able to get their rights back to vote.
Yes, because if you look at the history of what's going on with him, I mean, literally, they said they met twice a year, and I got to go back and fact check everything. They met 2 or 3 times a year, and they've only heard 400 cases, 500 cases a year out of the tens of thousands that actually apply. So, and it's a random. You may be one, and they pick you. You come up, you have to go in front of the board, and basically they told you it's our decision. There's nothing written in law. We just how we feel this day. If you deserve to get it back or not.
Wow.
And that was it.
Yeah, and this man still can't lose a freaking race. But yeah, it's crazy. I also think that Texas was another state that I was looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Beto O'Rourke made a lot of headway for a state that's traditionally red, and he actually got it to be on that edge, borderline purplish kind of color. And it's due to the influx of certain urban cities like Houston and Dallas, where you have more of a Democratic vote there.
Check this out. So as of November 1st, the number of Texans who cast an early ballot had topped the state's entire turnout for the 2014 midterms.
Wow, that's quite a stat.
It just shows people are there. People just don't need to get discouraged about what happened now, because one of the things it's not an overnight success. And people got to realize that. And that's why I was trying to have conversations today, the last 2 days, about everything. Today's only the first day after the election. Good Lord. It seemed like we had a couple days already.
Yeah.
people want change right now and understand that this is the first step. So getting people out to vote. Again, voting is one day of the year. The other 364 days matter as well. So what you're doing in the meantime to get people out, to educate people, to do stuff in your communities, to build up coalitions, to do all these different things, to fight these different initiatives is going to be key in keeping the voters voting numbers where they're at now, and then adding on to them as we go. People don't get discouraged by what's happened. Take it as little steps. Again, the 1.4 now in 2018, when we get to 2020, is the presidential election, and we're looking at other key races in the state of Florida. Like all those people need to show back up, and there's 1.4 million people. You need to register as many of them as possible and get them out to vote too.
It's a marathon, not a sprint, and that's what people got to realize. Change is a long marathon, and you can't think of it as this, quick sprint that we're hoping that Gillum getting in was going to be this huge, bonfire effect that was going to make everything just change. It's just like how we felt with Obama. It was great to have him come there, but watching the progression, seeing the gems and jewels that he's left, it's about that and understanding, the momentum is still here. Things are still moving in the right place. It always is a slap in the face, right, to get the reality of how we still stand in understanding that it's still not built for us, but it also is good seeing that we are making the progress in order to get the pieces in the right places.
So a couple more stats. So more than 3.3 million voters between the ages of 18 to 29 voted early ballot. That's a 188% increase from 2014. So don't count out these young folks, these millennials, as we call them.
That's my biggest hope is the young seeing how involved in the right areas that they are. They don't care about old money, and they are very conscious of the environment and understanding, like, you guys are trying to drive the planet into a space where it's not going to be here for me when I'm your age. And so I'm very impressed by the younger generation and how however they are with their being involved.
Yeah, and they still made up the smallest amount of voter turnout, but people age 65 and up. So speaking of old money, not just old money, but old way of thinking, they turned up probably the heaviest in the early voting population.
What was their number? Okay.
It doesn't have their exact number.
You're talking about nationwide, right?
Yep. But if you give me a second, I'll find it for you.
So when I look at the nationwide thing, I go back and look at the big picture. So you talk about race, you talk about gender, you talk about all these other backgrounds and things that now come to the forefront, and the change is happening. And Ian said it best. It's like it's not a marathon. You got to take it. It is a marathon. It's not just a sprint right now, right? So we had so many women who actually won races in key areas that had never had a woman candidate even come close to winning before. So what you see is the change is coming slowly but surely. And then again,
don't discount the minorities as well, because there was a couple of some Muslim women that won.
There was a lot of Muslim women. The first
Somali, the first Hindu.
There was two both openly gay winners as well, a female and a male.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So when we talk about a difference in thought, a difference in the way things are, people are running, communities are electing people now. So if you look at these small wins and add them up over time, once you get to the point where it hits critical mass, there's going to be no stopping the change that's going to occur. And what should be happening now is the fact that, yes, some of the Democratic candidates may not have won the gubernatorial races. There may be some Senate seats or some House seats that did not go the way that you expected it to go. But if you look and see their reaction when the status poll in Florida it was basically almost a 1-to-1 vote in the state of Florida. 34,000 ballots right now, and they're actually doing a recount for senator for Bill Nelson and Scott.
Yeah.
Scott. And
Yep.
so the thing about that now, I was just listening to it a little while ago. That actually may trigger another recount for Gillum and DeSantis because of if the numbers increase one way, or you got absentee ballots or provisional ballots that never got counted. If that number is less than 0.5%, it automatically triggers a recount in that one as well.
And that's a
Man,
big thing. Go ahead.
That stuff is on its way to the recycling center.
I heard it's like tens of thousands of absentee ballots that have not yet been counted. I got a
provisional ballots as well, and provisional ballots. And no, by the time you hear this, it'll be too late. Thursday at 8 p.m. is the last for anybody who casted their vote in Florida with a provisional ballot to prove that you're either whatever discrepancy there was when you went to go vote, to prove it to have your vote count. So we need to push that out there too.
Mike, to answer your question, and Brett, how many voters did you say turned out?
Overall, it's somewhere between 113 million, 110 million, somewhere.
Okay, this makes sense then. So ages 65 plus 14 million between early voting and absentee votes.
What were his previous numbers?
Previous number was somewhere around 9 million.
So my question for that was, what do you think that millennial number will have to get to offset? So if you think it was 3.3 from 18 to 24, then you figure it's 2 years from now. So you figure the 16, 17-year-olds will be 18. Do you think that number can get to 6 million, 7 million? Or you think it'll stay at the 3? Because it seems like it's a discrepancy between the older, if they coming out at 13 million, and the younger is only 3, it's still 10 million.
But what's the range on the older?
Yeah.
So I can tell you the range is 65 plus, and then they have a 50 to 64, a 40 to 49, a 30 to 39, and an 18 to 29.
So the 65 plus is a bigger pool.
It is with the
It is a bigger pool, and
living a lot longer. And
as you go through those generations, as you go down, the number goes down of people that voted.
Mm-hmm. Or you're looking at early voting or absentee voting only.
Early or absentee.
It goes up as the older you get, right?
Yep.
Interesting.
Then they break it down by race. Caucasian crushed it, like
because people are scared.
30 million early or absentee voters Caucasian.
People
are scared of change.
Crazy.
The next closest would be African American, and we're probably
like
25 million.
Do you think that's more change or scared of the conflict and the confrontation of being seen and associated with 45 because of the color of your skin?
Scared of change.
I'm sorry. I said 25 million. That's a lot. Probably 2 million.
Okay, yeah. That's closer to what I was thinking. So what
500,000.
What's your question, Mike?
I said, do you think that the large number of Caucasians doing the early vote was because of the just being out, or with the mindset that of the conflict of being associated, seen being voted supporting 45?
I don't think you don't have to be seen. Like, there's nobody who knows who you're voting for when you go to the polls. So I don't think it was. I think it was just they wanted to make sure they did it, and they have a lot more accessible resources to make sure they're executing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have a question though. So if there's so many votes that haven't been counted yet, right? Absentee and provisional, where did these folks get their stats from?
So I think it's a matter, and I think BJ pointed this out, of statistical, I guess, relevance on what it will do to the race. So if it's not going to statistical impact, so if it's not enough to even impact the race, then they're just like, it's a wash anyway. That's why you would have Gillum concede, and they check the box. No, it's DeSantis.
And they're historical for whatever area, and is it enough to turn it? Even if you do count them, what's it going to do and all that?
And there's so much, like, the machines, even in the counting, they're only, you know, rated for a certain amount of potential error, and then they get audited later on, that there's still an opportunity that they could find out that one of the machines is not necessarily, you know, within the 0.005% error allotment, and then they have to do a recount on those ballot. Like, there's so areas to and opportunities to be able to.
I just find it interesting that there's still paper that they give you when you go to the polls, but yet they're able to give you results immediately after the polls close.
Well, you're putting them in that machine.
You're putting them in the machine, so it scans it. But
scanning it
like the old Scantron for your school
Right.
too.
yeah, so it's
That data's available.
allegedly being fed directly into the computer system. Like, that's what the reason they went back to paper and filling out the thing, because punching those holes was what they were saying was creating the errors before. And
The hanking
it was
Chad.
be able to exactly go back to Scantron style, but it's being fed into the computer system and allegedly directly being able to be uploaded and counted. And so that's what it with the amount of error that they allow within the system.
Exactly. As long as the computers are calibrated to capture everything. And there's been cases of the computers were programmed backwards. So if you voted one way, they counted it the opposite way.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, who was in charge of that whole programming process to come up with that software package to say, don't worry about it, just trust us. We'll kind of
There were places with no plugs yesterday. There was, you know, all types of crazy stuff going on.
So one thing that I found, I'm going to look it up before I go ahead, Carol. I'm going to look it up before I tell
I was going to say there were 25 states that actually allowed voters to vote electronically. Most of it was for military men and women. So the technology is out there. They're just scared that if the Russians could hack a big election, like what could they do?
All right.
It's about the verification. Yeah, trying to figure out that verification process that they could be able to implement that then would not be able to be hacked.
I mean, especially if it's like a website, web-based. I mean, I think
That's
there's definitely ways you could have to like take a picture. You know what I mean? Even if you have to take a little short video first to, you know, say your name and have your license right here like this, they could easily be able to verify a person.
There is one state that you can vote via mobile app, and you guys will never guess what state.
I know it's somewhere crazy.
New Hampshire.
Somewhere in the middle of the country, man.
Idaho.
Probably Kansas.
Montana.
What's that? The
South Dakota.
Wyoming.
And no disrespect to them, but it's West Virginia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Wow. I did not expect that. I said, oh, really? Like, because I got a lot of cousins in West Virginia. It was just hearing about West Virginia over the weekend. So
Rand University. Shout out Randy Moss.
Yes.
Arizona, Colorado, Missouri, and who is that? North Dakota. They have online portals.
Yeah, I don't know. I did the electronic voting one time, my first time voting at UM, and it was cool and everything. But I don't think you can ever secure it enough to be able to keep it trustworthy. I mean, with
you can
all of the suppression efforts that happen just domestic with voting machines, miscounting votes and things of that nature. Like, it's just not even. I'd rather stick to the Scantron and trust that.
Yeah. My question about the whites was that I find that even in conversation, I hear them explaining who they voted for or their displeasure with Trump more than I do. It's almost assumed that black people didn't vote for him, whereas whites have to prove that they didn't by saying outwardly, I'm not a Trump supporter.
Saying it doesn't mean what they're checking the box.
Doesn't mean that they
saying it don't mean nothing, and you got to realize
there's people on your ballot
aren't even trying to be around anybody who looks like any of us that are the ones that are still going out there voting, talking about it amongst themselves.
Not only that, I mean, I don't think any Trump supporter has any hide at this point in the game. I mean, he's 2 years in this thing and is just as strong as he was, if not stronger, when he first started.
Actually
So,
stronger.
right.
Mm-hmm. They've been empowered.
It's
Yep.
Right.
crazy, isn't it? This is crazy.
BJ, did you find what you were looking for before we moved this?
No, I don't. I don't want to quote it because it was something. It was hearsay, and I never actually researched it. But I'm gonna find it before we get off here. Yeah, so no.
That's crazy.
Easy.
Hey, so I want to ask y'all something. Yeah, Brett, I'm derailing you.
Go ahead, man. You got it.
So I was watching, was it yesterday or today? It was a morning talk show, and basically the subject was, as minorities, do we feel like we have to be perfect in order to be accepted or to reach a certain status?
In what settings? Any setting, business setting, professional
I'm
setting?
about to say, I know
Any setting.
personally, I do not, but I do know many who do. Like, it depends on what you're pursuing, but I definitely know many who do feel like that instance. Shit, excuse me. BJ even said right now, earlier, I can't do No Shave November because I'm not about to be walking around with the crazy beard and everything, and you know what I mean, in front of all these people, and I'm the only example of what an African American male is. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I do. I would say, but you had to put the two together. It's more being the black with the male than it is just the black. Like having more consciousness about being a male part of it, and my maleness, like the beard, like literally, am I dressed professionally? Like I went to the doctor today and I got on sweats and a hoodie. Like, do I need? You going to the doctor? All right, I ain't shaved, but it's that constant consciousness of the perception of black male. But I think more for me, it's the male part than it is. I guess it's both because if I was a
Yeah, I'm about to say, if you was a white dude, you would not care.
You wouldn't have thought about it.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of was like, yeah.
No,
Well,
whatever.
I think it's an unfortunate circumstance that we find ourselves in. And that's why I asked you the setting, Carol, because like when I'm at work inside of my four walls, I'm myself, and so much so that it's uncomfortable for those who haven't accepted themselves. I mean, we had the conversation about the watermelon chicken and stuff, right? But if I'm outside on a job, like if I'm in DC on a government base or at a hotel or something, I do think that we have to strive for perfection. I think I heard it on Scandal and probably my grandfather a couple times before. You got to work twice as hard. You got to be twice as fast, twice as good to even be in the same room or conversation with these folks. So I think there is a certain level of perfection that we feel we have to have in order to be able to compete or gain some of the same opportunities.
Do you think it's right?
We of course we know it's not right, but that's the system.
it's facts.
And until we, I guess, send enough or do enough to
running this marathon, America.
Right, and do enough to create our own within that system or create our own system. You know, it's just you gotta be in the game to play and change the rules. So you do what you gotta do while you're there.
Survive.
So that's the part that I constantly go back and forth and think that is constant BS. Is the dream of if you get in the system, you can change it when the system is structured to never be changed. So it's almost like you have to.
It's not true. Look at the election system.
Yeah, it's not gonna work.
Look at the election system, though. You see how they constantly moving the finish line because we getting further and further into the system and we being more active.
But I think that's just.
But that is the system, though.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Oh, of the moving of the finish line, you saying?
Yeah.
Of course, because
that is the system.
they have to keep on making you feel that you're gaining something and that you're attaining in order to keep you. Hey, keep this thing. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, you guys are close. Anyway, we're gonna
so I think at some point though it has to be finite, because again we talking about what can. I think there's a certain common decency at some point, right? So that's why I feel like it has to be finite, and you can only push the finish line but so far before you get some people who's like, hold on, that's crazy. Look at Saudi Arabia, where Khashoggi, that whole assassination situation with the news reporter.
Iran.
I don't think it was Iran. I know it has something to do with Turkey, and I believe it's Saudi Arabia. I'm not sure, but it's a Middle Eastern country. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to lump all of them in together at one point. I'm not
No,
trying
don't
to
worry.
be
We're gonna fact check it right now and get the right one. Go
right.
ahead.
But that whole situation where this guy walks into a building and doesn't walk out, but there's
It's a
somebody who
government
walks
building, yeah.
out wearing his clothes, and then you find out later that he got beat up in an interrogation, and then you find out later that he got chopped up and we can't find his body or what have you. So it's like at some point the common decency has to step up, and there has to be some sort of responsibility or accountability held, and the powers that be to rally around that.
But even in
Oh.
that situation, like the person
Oh.
that did the chopping will get caught. The
Yeah.
person that ordered the chopping, you never hear from, never know who they are, because
In
they have
Saudi
the
Arabia.
power. Because they got the power to say, if you tell on me, I'm getting you chopped.
Yep.
So I think that's to a point where it's the power. Like they say, like 1% of the world's population has like the most power or whatever it is by the
Most control. Yep.
yeah, so like that part, those are the people that are the system. And as a minority, to thought, okay, well, yeah, you can get elected and you can change and you can make a big difference. Woohoo! Is for those people that are not a part of that group. It's the same bill of goods that they were sold, to saying there is the possibility. But even like when we were just talking about earlier, like everything that goes into an election, like it's almost to a point where you feel like, and this is not to discourage everybody, please go vote. But it's to a thought that when you start adding the numbers up, like, does it truly make logical sense for them to count that fast to get the people that they want to get in?
Well,
Or
here's the thing. There's a projection on how many people are going to vote, right? And they know using analytics, this number of people is probably going to show up to vote this election. So it's not surprising to them the number that came out for this midterm election at all.
Mhm.
And they already had percentages as to who was going to vote where.
Mhm.
So, and they probably got it with pretty close with who was going to win what.
Mhm.
And that's the part. As long as we keep acting in a way that they can have projections and have analytics on it, they're always going to be right and they're going to be one step ahead. If we surprise them and more people show up to vote than they can account for, then that's when things get out of hand and they don't know what the outcome will be.
Mhm. Which I think that was the first Obama election.
And there's a couple states that they kind of reflect that this time. Like, and again, I was hearing some of this stuff the last couple of days. I've been getting states confused, but I'll double check that as well. There's 4 states that actually allow same day registration and voting on voting day. Like those type of processes in place are those things that are going to keep an extra 100,000 people, extra 20,000 people. Heck, if you just look at Florida alone, 34,000 people one way was a difference in the senator election. So 30,000 people across the state of Florida. Just think about how many people were in Florida. Like if 30 people, and I'm not saying they're all going to vote one way, but just arbitrarily speaking, like if we're just talking about same day registration in this state, that's something that systems are not put in place to let that happen because of things like that. The outcome may change. So that's going to be railroaded no matter when that comes up. And people are talking about bringing that to Florida. That is one of the systems that would be in place that I feel will never pass. So again, we got to figure out what else can do, to Carol's point.
So it's almost getting to a conversation of change can happen, but may not necessarily be in my lifetime.
It could be, Mike, because it has to be something, man, just erratic, something that's just totally unaccounted for, right? So it could happen in your lifetime, right? But we can't plan it. We would never know when it's actually going to happen. And that's the problem, is that it takes a certain level of grassroots efforts just to put it out there and keep publicizing and keep educating and encouraging people to show up to vote. Because as long as they can predict our behavior and our behavior is on a certain curve, unless we deviate from the curve, it's going to continue to be status quo.
So it's almost a question of what the heck can happen then.
And that goes back to somebody just said, when Barack Obama won the presidency the first time, that was erratic. That was something that was a deviation because they did not think that he was going to be that polarizing of a figure that many people would come out. So there was nothing that they could do to counter it.
Right. It happened. It was voting day and lines was crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why if you look at historically, people that have a polarizing ability to impact masses, something happens to those people. They get derailed, they get murdered, something happens, right? And because Barack Obama's happened so quickly, there wasn't action that could be taken. Nobody ever thought that was going to happen because of the way that he came about.
Mm-hmm.
I will say they made sure that they have him occupied after his election.
So do you guys think, and I know I don't want to get too far away from your original question about, I think it was more so around authenticity or just being able to be yourself in, several different environments. But going along with, what they do to, I guess, our leaders that rise to prominence, I feel like it's a different day and age. And I don't know that an assassination attempt is even possible at this point in time because of the reaction that you would kind of get. How do you guys feel?
I don't think it can happen just because of the security. Like, it's a different level of security after 9/11 to the minute possibility of an assassination is so remote that it's almost not even worth the attempt to even begin to think about what that plan would be.
So
Because
it's multifaceted.
Yeah.
I can see. Let's take 45 for example. Where you're talking about the base that has been riled up in response to this power, right? That's across the states. All you need is that one fanatical person that's going to attempt to do something, right? Mm-hmm. So you seen this guy down here in Florida 3 weeks ago with all these pipe bombs that all the Democratic leaders got that sent to. Like, I'm not saying that nobody funded him or did this, but somewhere in this man's mind, he was doing a service to
Our nation,
the party, to our nation, to his party, to get these key Democratic people out the way. Now, whether they were, I haven't even heard, were they really going to go off, were they really built to a point where they could do major damage? But the plan was all you need is that one fanatic person to pull out and do something crazy. Now, we all know, yes, security is tight, everything, but there's people out here today that are planning stuff that God knows what's going on. These doomsday people, and I'm not trying to lump, but I'm just thinking, I watch these shows and their mentality is like the world is against them, conspiracy theorists out the wazoo. And I'm thinking, like, these people are really thinking that, like, what they're doing now. And again, granted, they may be right. If the world's coming to an end and they're going to be the only ones surviving, who knows? But when you hear them speak, they've been riled up so much and got to a point where we can't even imagine what they're going to do. This guy in Plantation mailed the stuff down here from Opelika, was riding through the Opelika post office. They traced it back there. His van was parked up in Plantation. They got him. Man, they drove his car when they picked him 2 X's up for me to go to the FBI building that's 5 minutes away. Like, all this stuff was surreal when all this was going on. My mom called me to talk about where you at. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, freaking out. Like, I don't know what's going on. But you need that one person that's going to try to do something, whether it's a bomb, whether it's shooting somebody, whether it's taking out the people in a crowd that support them. All you need is that one person that's going to push the envelope, and you can't prepare for anything. That's why we get these cases where we get school shootings, we got mall shootings, we get walking to anywhere. It's just crazy.
A crazy segue. Well, I was going to say a crazy segue is actually my cousin Vicky Jones was murdered last week. And actually, it's been 2 weeks now.
I was just about to say it, and I stopped myself that quick. I didn't want to tread down that path. I apologize.
It's fine. While it's definitely a crazy story, She was, I don't know how many people out there follow that at a Kroger in Louisiana, Kentucky. A man pretty much opened fire inside of a Kroger grocery store, killed one gentleman, black guy inside of the store, pretty much murdered him in front of his grandson, shot him in the back of the head, then unloaded a clip in him while he was on the ground inside of the store.
Why did he go to the store? Why did he go to the store?
And specifically,
he went to a church. He went to
went
a church,
previously, and this is a white guy. Went to a church previously, exactly.
A black church.
A black church, a known black church previously. Tried to get in there, was not able to. Then he went to the Kroger. That's where he shot the first gentleman, killed him, reloaded his weapon, walks outside, gets confronted first by one guy who he pretty much tells, they have a standoff, and he pretty much tells them that, whites don't kill whites. Then he continues walking where my cousin was. I'm not 100% sure, like, if she was huddled trying to hide, but pretty much he shot her in the head and then started shooting her on the ground. While he's shooting her on the ground, there's another black lady standing next to her, who her husband was like on the other side of the car. He had a permit, so he pulled out his weapon and started firing at Buddy, which was the only thing that made him not start to shoot the other lady who was next to my cousin after he killed her. So then he takes off and, of course, is captured with no type of issues or anything by the police after all of this.
Taken alive, smiling, talking to the camera.
And he was just charged on Monday, I believe, but they did not charge him as of yet with a hate crime. It doesn't mean that it can't happen on a higher level, but I think as it stands statewide, it's not he has not been charged with a hate crime, just a murder. So it's been very interesting watching the whole story unfold. But in all of that chaos, I did have the opportunity to go and see my family I haven't seen for a very long time. And I was definitely fighting tooth and nail to go out there, but having the opportunity to reconnect with so many people, especially cousins. I found out I'm pretty much the oldest of the young cousins, so it feels good to still kind of be cool. But had a great time hanging out with everybody, reconnecting. Group chats have exploded, so it's just like I said, in chaos, it's always good to find those sweet spots.
Definitely.
So, Kay, I want to turn your question around on you because I don't think I got your response, though. But do you feel as though that you have to be perfect within your settings?
I think in order for us to even be seen, we have to approach perfection, because any little thing they could hold against us, right, could stop a bigger opportunity. So, and when I say perfection, it's not necessarily that it's perfection, but you got to be better than, you got to be probably twice as good as their average person, right? You have to be, again, you have to be a deviation from what they expect as the norm in order to even be given an opportunity or even be looked at. Because if you're not, then you're just another minority.
Be disruptive.
That's it. I mean, I remember riding in a car with a friend of all of ours, Jason and Ian, one time right in front of campus, right? And look at the three of us. There's nothing between the three of us that you would say is criminal activity or criminal looking.
I don't know, man. You look like a pretty suspicious dude, man, especially if you was the one driving.
I was not driving, I don't think. I want to say Ian was driving. But anyway, we get pulled over because we look like gang members. And
this
you had all your tattoos back then?
Yeah, this was college. I didn't have none. I might have had one.
He had one. He had one.
What? Gangsters?
He had one. I had one.
Members.
And then, Jason, he got who knows how many he had at that
Jason
time.
didn't have a whole lot of tattoos at that time.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he definitely had a decent amount, but
He
also
had at least 2 or 3.
none of our tattoos were.
But I thought they were covered though, right? They are invisible.
Well, I mean, like on our arms.
Oh no, they made a show. They like raise your sleeve up.
Yeah.
They want to see what markings we had.
Oh.
But
then, of course,
granted, none of these tattoos were like, you know.
And then Jason's branded at that time. So,
that's definitely a gang sign.
Gang members.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, and, you know, and we're educated guys, right? So imagine how much more do we have to accomplish to stand out, right? And not that we're trying to stand out from our fellow brothers and sisters, but we're already excelling further than what most people would expect, and you still get that line of conversation, right? Even today, any one of us could be pulled over, and we're going to be asked a whole lot of questions about whose vehicle we're driving, what are you doing in this area. All of that's possible. None of us leave the house any given day and think that that's not a possibility, right? So to what level do you have to get? And even once you get in that situation, you have to be able to talk in a certain manner for them to understand that I'm not who you think I am.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going over to 6121 for a barbecue. This is in Liberty City, ladies and gentlemen.
For those that don't know the spot.
And I was supposed to pick up some foil, and I forgot to pick up foil when I was leaving my house. So I was almost there, and I stopped to pick up foil at one of the little stores that was close to 6121. And the place got raided right when I was about to leave. And I mean, police are coming, guns drawn, everything. And they're like, hey, you, where you going? Stop. And I'm like, sir, look at me, look at them, listen to the way they're talking to you, listen to the way I'm talking to you. Clearly, I'm just passing through.
All I needed was foil, sir.
That's it.
And then I just proceeded to walk to my car. Like, I didn't care at that point because it was, look, if you're going to shoot me, shoot me. But other than that, I got to get to this cookout.
Going down at the 612.
Hey, man, they used to go down at the 6121. We need to have a reunion, man. Figure out who got that house and get that thing back.
Oh, nobody
They knocked
got
it down, didn't they?
It got knocked down.
I don't know if it's officially knocked down. It's still boarded up, though.
No, it's not no more.
Oh, it's
No. They went down there. They were re-landscaping last time I went by, and they made it in like two duplex.
Oh, it's a duplex.
It's a duplex already. But you mean like they just renovated it?
Like renovated.
There was two properties on it.
That one built the 6120 building, like 2 units with the garage. The garage.
It was like 2 rooms on one side, and then you had the other room on the other side.
There was 1 room and 2.
1 room on one side and then 2 on the other side. Yeah.
But then there was.
I'm going near there tomorrow. I take a couple of pictures and to you.
Oh man, yeah. Send us back down memory lane.
You know, I'm always in Liberty City. That's
Just stop and ask them if we can throw a party there.
Yeah, right.
I don't know about all that, but
Man, I love an idea. Y'all throwing parties in Liberty City, boy. That would have been crazy.
Listen, man.
Hey, man, the 2 that I went to were.
And I mean, Mike, listen. You're having a good portion of the University of Miami Black population showing up
there. Yeah.
coming
Like,
from you.
I remember one.
It's way too many people for the house, for the yard. Like, we're all out in the street. Just
Oh, they love it.
He would take over, and I mean, literally, like
block party.
a sea of people, college students coming into Liberty City, just walking down the street, taking over that whole corner that we had. Like, we used to have a hell of a time. DJ and all. Sage was out in the building. We talking big speakers, and never used to have no problems.
No, of course not. They want a party too. They're glad that y'all having a party because the music is.
And they coming out looking like, man, y'all are really like, y'all are here.
Yeah.
They ain't scared. What's up? Bring something.
Nothing but good time.
Next time you come over, don't come empty handed. Bring some plates or something.
Right. Easy. Hey, before we wrap this thing up, Fresh, I gotta get the Fresh in Biz this week, man. What you got for me?
This week for Fresh in Biz from your number one entrepreneur ninja. You know, weather through the storm. A lot of times you can find that things are piling up. It's getting a little crazy out there. You feel that you got too much to do. You don't have enough time, and you get caught up in this tough situation. make sure you take the time to clear your head. And as you are weathering through the storm, take time to count those small gains that you were going through. So take time to be thankful that even though you have 20 reports that you have to get in, be thankful that you got 2 of them done and whatever else was handed, and keep that momentum. Remember, we're talking about marathons, not sprints. It's a long cycle in your life. It's going to be a long cycle in your business. So make sure that you weather through the storm, push through. That's it. Number one, Entrepreneur Ninja. We out. Fresh and Biz.
Mm-hmm.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you get this podcast wherever you listen to them: iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. You got YouTube for the videos, Vimeo, and yeah, make sure you stay connected with us at 13th Floor, please, on Facebook, Instagram. Get with us, get fresh with us, get live with us, and Coach K, take us home, baby.
If you just simply want to fit in, you will always be boxed in to whatever it is you have fit yourself into. Be the deviation. Be abnormal. That is the only way that you will break through to the next thing. That's the only way that you can course correct, that you can course deviate. That's the only way that you can do something that nobody else has done before. So for those of you that went out and voted, look, man, we appreciate you. Don't feel like your effort was in vain. We need to build the next time. Who will you bring with you in 2020? Who will you bring with you to your local little whatever elections are happening in your community? How will you get involved? Do something that people are not expecting. If you do what everybody else is doing, everybody knows that's what you're going to do. And that's what they're expecting you to. And they can counter that 5 steps ahead of you. Be the deviation.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. We are done here on the 13th floor where the furniture isn't the best, but the views are amazing. Okay, when a block party, man. The housewarming
The
party.
13th floor.
Coming?
Yeah, I'll get there. I'll figure out.
Okay, because it's supposed to snow on Friday. And
The 13th floor.